Hello, everyone. How are we? Hopefully, all of you is having a fantastic Friday wherever you are around the world. Hopefully, everyone's good and well. Of course, it is Good Friday, which, of course, it has been another day, another weekend. Of course, it is a pretty much a 4-day weekend, isn't it? Really, but obviously in the UK it is anyway. But of course, it is still Premier League football coming up for the Reds, and of course, it is Liverpool against Leicester City on Sunday. Of course, the Reds could potentially be Premier League champions at the end of the weekend. It is unlikely because, of course, obviously it does involve Arsenal losing, of course, to Ipswich. I think they are away from home, aren't they? But still, of course, there is the possibility that Liverpool could be Premier League champions by, of course, by the end of the weekend, I should say, anyway. But of course, let me know how all of you are, of course, in the comments section down below. Very intrigued to know, of course, your guys' thoughts. And of course, obviously get your thoughts in, get your predictions in, get anything in the comments, of course, yet again as well. Of course, let me know how all of you are down below as well. Big up Red Chili as well, seeing your subs in the pubs. I saw this before coming on and I was like, surely not. Everybody's probably in the house right now as well, but hopefully everyone is good. Anyway, I'm in the kitchen with my Aldi cans as well. Hopefully they are nice, to be fair. I can't remember the last time I went to Aldi. I should, because there are some good things there, to be fair. Good things as well. And of course, look, obviously today was a bunch of football, wasn't it? Obviously, in terms of the Championship, League One, League Two. Of course, you look at that Championship race. Wow, that is getting really feisty. And that, of course, you look at League One as well. Of course, you look at obviously Birmingham. I know have already won League One, but still, again, you've got Wickham there, and of course Wrexham that's again fighting over automatic promotion. Which, to be fair, it is going right down to the wire, isn't it? At the present moment in time. Anyway, but of course, we are here to talk about Leicester v Liverpool. Of course, we'll discuss all the news from Arne Slot's press conference as well, and of course get my thoughts on the game, and of course get your guys' thoughts on the game as well. But yeah, if you are new around here, of course, please do hit the like button and hit the subscribe button as well. Anyway, but yeah, of course, look. Like we said throughout this week, of course, obviously the big news for Liverpool this week has been, Virgil van Dijk re-signing his new contract. That's why it's there. That's why he is there, of course. And look, I think overall, you look at this game, of course, look, it is obviously predicted Liverpool are going to win the Premier League title. Of course, we only need 6 points now to get that confirmed. But I think in an overall sense, of course, we'd very much like it to be maybe at Anfield next week against Tottenham. Of course, obviously Spurs they're in a Europa League semi-final, which again, fair play to them last night, along with obviously us, not really want to cheer Manchester United because it is the Manx, but again, that game was unbelievable with Lyon. I will say though, like everybody labeling it as one of the greatest comebacks ever. They were 2-0 up. They were 2-0 up and they bottled it. And then, of course, it did change as well. But still, even, that game in particular. And I think that the football over the last 2 or 3 days, I think it's just shown, again, European football, at its best, really. The Champions League, I think the Europa League as well. I even think if you look at the Conference League, you look at Chelsea obviously losing as well in the Europa League, even though they're playing pretty much their not their first team or their main team in particular, but again they're playing starters in that. Cole Palmer I think started, I think Nkunku started as well, and many others as well in that game. And you look at it, of course, and for me, European football again is pretty good at the moment, of course. Anyway, but obviously in the Premier League, you even look at the league table, and of course from everybody's calling it or saying this season has been terrible because, of course, there's been no title race or there's not been, enough of a fight really at the top. And of course, that's not Liverpool's fault. That's, of course, City and Arsenal's fault for not really providing a fight really for the title. But I think in terms of, again, overall league status, of course, and obviously the relegation teams, it's not really great. But I think the middle field in terms of mid-table, where you look at it, anybody now can qualify for the Champions League. You look at Newcastle. Newcastle have a real possibility of even finishing second this season, and that is a real possibility. They've even still, I think they still got to play Arsenal at the Emirates as well. So again, it's a huge possibility for many teams as well. And of course, we'll talk a little bit about Leicester now as well. Of course, but a big up hero as well. Hope you're doing well, mate. As well as saying hello, lads, as well. But yeah, look, and speaking about Leicester City, of course, they are going to go back down. I think, of course, you're looking at the league table. You're looking at, of course, can they survive? And no, I don't think they can. I'm not too sure whether or not if Liverpool do beat Leicester. I don't know whether or not it is confirmed that they will be relegated. I think obviously it does depend on, of course, like West Ham's result, and of course I think Wolves' result as well. I think if Wolves and West Ham were to win, I think of course then it would be confirmed then that they are going to be going down as well. And realistically, it's not been a great time for Ruud van Nistelrooy at Leicester City. Of course, I think looking at the teams this season, of course, obviously, I know, obviously, Maresca left Leicester last season, obviously went to Chelsea, and then, of course, they had Steve Cooper, didn't work out there, and then they've looked for a manager who, again, was kind of that, not hipster vibe, really, but kind of that, like, oh, maybe we give him a chance, he's going to be the guy that maybe gets us, maybe gets us to survive while also playing decent football. Has not really worked, and I do wonder, and of course, if there are any Leicester fans watching, of course, please do let us know. But of course, I feel, and I'm watching it, I really wonder if Ruud van Nistelrooy is going to be there next season. Is he going to, like, him himself? Because I feel like he's the type of manager, or the type of person that would want to be in a top league somewhere. Of course, obviously he's been in the Dutch league, and obviously he's been in the top league now in the Premier League with Leicester. But is he going to stay an extra year in the Championship? Is he going to build a team to get back up to promotion, build up his vision of Leicester City, and then obviously come back next year? Obviously, come back next year at the Championship, and then the year after, come back again in the league potentially. I don't really see it personally. Anyway, of course, if anyone else disagrees with that, do let us know. But I think when you look at their fixtures and look at obviously the results, you look at the results the last couple of weeks. Obviously, they did draw 2-2 to Brighton last time out in the Premier League, as you guys can see. But they, of course, but again, 3-0 defeat to Leicester. And of course, that was in the first half. 2-0 loss to Manchester City. And even if I go back by year, again, the only victory in the, of course it's Spurs. Of course it's Spurs that they beat as well. But again, you even look at it, look at the red in there, of course, losing 2-0 to Palace, 2-0 to Fulham, beating Spurs away from home as well, losing 4-0 to the Ev, 2-1 to Manchester United, 2-0 to Arsenal as well, obviously 4-0 to Brentford, and yeah, just red all together. And I think, look, whether or not, of course, they're going to go and rebuild, is another question, of course, but I think when you're having a 38-year-old Jamie Vardy lead the line for you, I think that's a bit of a problem, really, because even still, look, if just to take a quick look now, I think in the league, in particular, I'm going to quickly double check now, but I think in terms of goals scored, yeah, Jamie Vardy's their top goal scorer in the Premier League with 7. Of course, Wilfred Ndidi, top assister with 4 as well. And just looking at their main starting 11, when you actually look at it, again, obviously more known as 4-2-3-1. With Leicester, I look at it and go, you look at last season, you look at somebody like a Mavadivi, yeah, that's right, who last season, again, was really good in the Championship for Leicester. I think last season, yeah, he got 13 goals and 6 assists, which, again, judging from an overall perspective, is a pretty good season in the Championship. But again, he's not really progressed much from last season. I think he has suffered a little bit with injuries as well, I should say that. But of course, looking at it now, 32 games played, 6 goals, 1 assist, which of course in a poor Leicester side is probably decent, to be fair, but still it's like I think for what Leicester needs, they need that, striker that can get, 10, 15 goals plus. Okay, Vardy's a good option because, again, obviously Premier League experience. But again, like I said, having a 38-year-old Jamie Vardy having to lead your line, really, when you've had players in the past of, you've had, Paston Daka in the past, you've had Iheanacho as well, who supposedly was meant to be the guys that were going to replace Jamie Vardy in time. And of course, that hasn't really happened, has it? So I think next season for them, I think obviously the biggest one is to get, a new striker, to get a new number one, a new number 9, really, I should say, up top, of course, as well, because even looking at it now, Van Nistelrooy's got an 11% win record. It is less than Steve Cooper as of things right now, as well, which is mad, with all things considered, as well. Anyway, but look, let me know your guys' thoughts on Leicester, of course, and yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts overall in the comments down below, of course. Anyway, but like I did say at the start of the show, of course, look, Liverpool could be champions at the end of the weekend. Of course, it's officially 6 points Liverpool need to win the Premier League title, which, of course, when you look at it, look, Liverpool again. I think everybody would just love to Liverpool just to win the league at Anfield, but I think on a general consensus, if we take a look at the league title, not league title, sorry, the league table, I should say. Anyway, for you guys, so even if we look at it now, you look at it on the left-hand side again. Look, Liverpool on 76 points. Obviously, a win against Leicester would put us on 79. And of course, Arsenal, they do have Ipswich away, of course, but again, they're going to have to be thinking as well over the next couple of weeks, of course, on, of course, the Champions League semi-final. That's going to be huge for Arsenal against PSG, because for me, I still think PSG are the favourites as of things right now for the Champions League. You look at the last 20 odd games. I know obviously Arsenal beat them earlier on in the season, but I feel like they're a much better team than what they was earlier on in the season. But I think overall, look, Liverpool will be Premier League champions, I feel like, in the next 2 games. And that's obviously we've got Leicester and we've got Tottenham, but even still, like I believe in myself that the fact that Liverpool will be Premier League champions ahead of these 2 games, and that's just my personal opinion. But even still, looking at the league table, I'm not even sure who Arsenal got next week, but you would start to think that they would think about potentially, of course, the Champions League, because again, that Champions League semi-final is going to be huge for them, of course. Anyway, but look, let me know how all of you are as well. How's the lager going down, Red Chili? Gonna save my beers for Sunday. Well, hopefully, hopefully it will be the fact that Liverpool will win anyway. But I think both Liverpool and Arsenal will win. I think so as well this weekend. Yeah, I do think so. Hero, fair play, mate, as well. But when you look at that league table, and like I said though as well, to be fair, you look at the top 10 really. You look at all of them. So what is it? So obviously Newcastle, like I said, are on 50. Are they away? Yeah, they're away to Villa as well. But you look at that, again, the only team that with a perfect record in the last 5 games, of course, obviously we lost to Fulham, but still, like, Newcastle are in some form this season, of course. Again, obviously, second top goal scorers now in the league, I think. No, it's not. Manchester City have scored one more than them, but still, again, the fact that they are only 4 points behind Arsenal, I think, is huge as well. Of course, it won't mean anything because, look, Arsenal are going to get Champions League, but again, for Newcastle, of course, if they were to get second, a second place and a Carabao Cup, that would be a tremendous season for them as well. And look, I think they could end up doing it, but again, that game against Arsenal will be huge for them, absolutely. As well anyway, but big up Mark as well. How is everyone doing good? Thank you, Mark. Hopefully you're doing well as well. But yeah, I think on an overall consensus, I think certainly in the next 2 games Liverpool will be will be Premier League champions, as I take myself off, but I think Liverpool will be champions in 2 games' time. But of course, that's just a prediction on my end. I'm not saying, look, of course, you have to think about the game ahead. You can't, um, you can't again oversee Leicester, even though again Leicester are down there in the relegation battle. Of course, you can't just overlook them because look, obviously you look at somebody like a Spurs, for example, and I don't think anybody would have thought Spurs would have lost to Leicester, but they did, and I think maybe in that game they maybe took them a bit lightly. I think Liverpool have had that in the past, certainly in more recent weeks as well, of maybe relaxing a little bit, because everybody assumes Liverpool are going to win the Premier League title. I think all of us now are in that conversation of, we all think Liverpool are going to win the league, but even still, I look at it and I go, Liverpool for me need to wake up. Of course, after it is confirmed, after Liverpool gets 6 points now, okay, you can maybe take your foot off the gas and in certain situations, but it's also that sense of as well that look, I want Liverpool to get over 90 points this season. I want Liverpool to put a statement of intentment down for next season, because it does show intent of what you're going to do next year. Arne Slot spoke about it highly again today, didn't he? About how, again, they're going to future-proof the squads in the summer and so on as well. And of course, really, be ready to defend the Premier League title if Liverpool are going to go on and win it. And look, of course, Arsenal play before us as well. So I think for us, it's just keeping our heads, because we didn't do that last week against West Ham either, until West Ham scored. Look, Liverpool were very sloppy, from the time we scored the first goal to conceding, it was pretty poor from us, and it was poor. And then we ended up conceding, and then since, from conceding to, Van Dijk scoring the winner, it was completely different Liverpool team, and it was like a completely different atmosphere really to what Liverpool were, in that game in particular. And I think that for me, like, we need that Liverpool more often, because even again now on Sunday, Liverpool, like, for me, I think Liverpool should have the idea, or the team should have the idea of, look, we go in there, start off brilliantly. Liverpool could be 2-3-0 up at half time. You can start to rotate, of course, obviously with having a week gap now between games as well. You could, obviously rotate. You could obviously rotate Salah, rotate other players as well. And that's the other side of it as well, where Liverpool need to not batter Leicester, because look, if Liverpool only get like a 2-0 win, look, it's still a win. It's 3 points. But of course, everybody would like, a 3 or 4-0, for example, as well, to really put a statement down. Of course, going into next week as well against Spurs. But even still, I would happily take a 1-0 win. And that's something as well I think the team will do as well, to be fair as well. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts down below anyway. But yeah, Newcastle getting Europe would be great as well. Well, obviously, on a Liverpool point of view, on a selfish point of view, really, of course, would 100% mean that Liverpool are not getting Alexander Isak, which is, I think is pretty, visible now that Liverpool not going to get him as well. But look, to be fair, what Newcastle have done this season, again, very, very good as well. And look, it's kind of like when you look at their team, like they only need, they need reinforcement in what, 2 areas, I would say, maybe 3 at a push. I think they need a new right winger or right-sided forward. I do think they need that, even though I think Jacob Murphy's done really good for them this season in particular, and of course the seasons past. I think they can upgrade on that position. Centre half as well, I think they could upgrade upon. I know obviously they've got Sven Botman, but I think you look at Newcastle as well, goalkeeper. I think Nick Pope. I think Nick Pope, for me, you can upgrade on now anyway. Of course, you can keep Nick Pope around, and obviously, he's a decent, probably number 2, but I don't know whether or not, of course, he's a definite number 1 then, I should say. But that's good as well as Mark. Yeah, just go to the end, put more pressure on teams as well. Yeah, absolutely. Need to go for all the trophies, like always, strengthen and boss next few seasons. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like I said, I think over the last couple of shows I've said it, in terms of this summer is huge because, again, it's technically Arne Slot's first summer, really. Last summer, he got to assess the squad. Of course, we wanted Martin Zubimendi. That didn't happen, of course, and we went on to obviously only get Federico Chiesa. But this summer, I feel like is his true first summer where, again, he's got the idea now of the players that he wants and the players he doesn't want and he can trust. And I think now, of course, it'll be a very busy summer. I can see Liverpool easily signing 4+ players, in the summer. I think, to kick things off, I think left back and striker will be the first positions that we look at and look to do. And then, of course, depending on departures, that will depend on what Liverpool do from of course, the rest of the summer. But look, we need to strengthen and build from this season, especially having now Virgil and obviously Mo staying as well at the club. Look, that for me, of course, will be huge. Of course, anyway. But it would be it will scare other teams if we smash them as well. Yeah, absolutely. 2 to 3 for sure, as well as Mark. Yeah, we haven't bought anyone in since Slot took over. I don't think we will sign any more than 4. If I'm to put a number on it right now, personally myself, I would say 5. Myself, I think we get a striker, a left back, a centre back, a left winger, and a midfielder. Actually, no, I lie. I think 6, because I think right back as well. I think Liverpool will sign a right back for Conor Bradley to be the backup. Of course, obviously, if Trent was to stay, then yeah, of course, it would be great. Liverpool wouldn't have to spend any money, but yeah, like I think it's obvious that Trent's gonna leave, and that's a perfect segue to the next bit. Of course, speaking about Trent, obviously he is going to be back on the bench. On a Slot to confirm that he's back in first team training, but he won't start. He will not start for the Leicester game. That's already been confirmed as well. And watching the press conference this morning, and kind of having that feeling of that Arne Slot was deflecting a little bit, kind of for the first time really in his Liverpool tenure, that he wasn't really answering the questions. I would say, of course, a lot of people was obviously speaking about Van Dijk signing a new contract and obviously Mo Salah signing his new deal, of course, and of course he's answered them very openly, I would say, over the last couple of months. So of course that he wants both to stay. But of course, he was asked today about Trent, and I think even Jamie Carragher spoke to him on Sky about how you wish it's going to be 3, and of course, Arne Slot wants Trent to stay. Of course, he does. But I think he answered back in a way where, again, his performances this season have been good, and hopefully he can help us to achieve really something special this season. And it's kind of different wording when it comes to Trent now. So certainly in the press conference and certainly in the interview he did with Sky, where he did word a lot of things a bit differently when it comes to Trent, which again I think is an indicator that, of course, Trent's going to be leaving Liverpool at the end of the season. Of course, all of us would love there to be a U-turn, and we'd love Trent to go no to Madrid, and obviously that doesn't look like to be the case as of things right now. But again, I think the biggest question is, of course, what happens in that right back position. And I think from now until the end of the season, Trent doesn't start for me. Like, of course, Trent can come on and help and provide for Liverpool, to obviously help and go on to a league title. But for me, he doesn't start, and that's for me the obvious thing to do, really. I don't think you've got to. I personally just don't think really that Liverpool should be starting Trent. Even if the league's confirmed and done, I don't think Liverpool should be starting Trent for the rest of the season. Anyway, but look, let me know your guys' thoughts down below, of course. Anyway, but got to bike it to the different. Got to bike it to the off license before they lock up. Next time, boys, all the best. Well, we'll big up Rich as well. Hopefully, you do have a good weekend as well. Anyway, for you guys as well. But I wouldn't want to disrupt the team too much as well. Yeah, absolutely. Marcus Wells, she said, but they can't trust Trent. To be fair, and that's the thing. Like, if, again with Trent, it's the same thing, isn't it? Where you're looking at it now, and you're probably going to build up Connor Bradley for next season, really, and see where his game is. To be fair, because again, you look at the games we've got coming up, even after the Spurs game, where I think that will be interesting as well. Depending on what Arne Slot wants to do. In terms of against Spurs, because again, when we had Connor Bradley, certainly probably in the first, did he play in the first leg? Away to Spurs, and we kind of did struggle in that game. But you look at every game that Trent's been involved in. I would say, certainly towards, against Spurs, for example, and again, just in general, of course, over him preventing or providing, I should say, of course, that killer ball and that killer instinct. Of course, it's been a massive bonus and positive for Liverpool. But it's also, when you look at it now, of course, you're building up for next season. You're most likely start Connor Bradley. To be fair, and look, if Trent turned around and said, "Oh, I want to stay now," I wonder what the reaction would be to Liverpool. Because look, I personally think Liverpool. I think if Trent all of a sudden turned around and went, "Oh, I want to stay," of course Liverpool would try and get him to stay, which of course they've tried all year round. But quite clearly, this has been a thing from Trent now for a while that he's going to leave, and I think now Arne Slot is really, like I said earlier, that Arne Slot has now opened up to like, oh yes, I can't blatantly turn and go, oh yeah, Trent's going, but I have a feeling once the league is confirmed and done, will I know that obviously the Madrid papers, I think was it yesterday, started coming up and was like, oh yeah, Trent's done, and Jurgen Klopp's going to Real Madrid, which of course he's not going to Real Madrid as well, which I also thought was funny yesterday. But even still, look, for me, I would start Connor Bradley anyway for the rest of the season. But what news on Nunes? Nunes is fine. Of course, it was an illness, wasn't it? Really, they kept him out for West Ham, but he should be back anyway for the game, hopefully, of course. But that is the only injury news, really. Of course, the only player I think still out at the present moment in time is Joe Gomez. I think he's the only squad member that is still out. Of course, obviously Tyler Morton is back in some regards. Of course, he did, I think, play for the under-21s last night, didn't he? As well. So of course, that's great news as well, the fact that he's back. But in terms of starting 11 predictions, I think it's pretty much going to be the same as last week. I think you look at the team that played against West Ham. Of course, obviously, did things change because of course Darwin Núñez wasn't available. But I probably think we're going to see the same team as what it was last week. To be fair, and even looking at the starting 11 last week, of course, again, I think it'll be Alisson, Bradley, Kanate, Van Dijk. Obviously, Robbo will come back in from the starting 11. Obviously, Grav, Maka will be the two. I think Dom will come back into the game as well instead of Curtis Jones. But again, the only other thing I think that might change for Liverpool is we might see the front three of Salah, Lucho Diaz, and Cody Gakpo. I think that will be the front three for Leicester. I think I think Lucho will be going down the centre instead of Jota potentially. But even still, you look at the last 2 to 3 games. Diogo Jota's been starting every game now for Liverpool, really. Again, taken off this minute, so maybe that's a plan for Liverpool as well, potentially. But even still, I do think that's the team I would go for. So it'd be Alisson, Bradley, Kanate, Van Dijk, Robbo, Grav, Maka, Szoboszlai, Salah, Diaz, and Cody Gakpo. That would be my team for Leicester. Anyway, of course, because again, we kind of know what system they're going to play. 4-2-3-1. They'll try and sit back and obviously counter. But yeah, I think we'll be better than them, obviously. And as well for score predictions as well, obviously let me know your guys' thoughts. But yeah, I'm going for 3-0 Liverpool. That's my score prediction. Salah 2 goals, and I think Gakpo as well to get a goal. That'll be my prediction. Anyway, but I would think Salah wants to destroy the record. Well, yeah, he's now on 45 goals and assists for this season. Goal involvement really. Of course, he needs another. Is it 3 to equal? To equal Andy Cole's and Alan Shearer's records, which he's going to do. Of course, the only difference is between them. Of course, they did play. Was it 42 league games as well? So, like Liverpool, not Liverpool, sorry, but for Mo, of course, he's already broken the 38 game record. Again, if he can add to it before the end of the season, then great. It'd be absolutely phenomenal if he can do it as well. But yeah, as you say, with him on 18 assists, I think he's on. Yeah, and look, if he can get over 20 Premier League assists, I know everybody goes on about the Thierry Henry season. Sorry, there, he got over 20 goals, got 20 goals, 20 assists. If Mo Salah adds to goals and the assists, like if he got over 20, if he got 21 assists in the season, I'm just gonna say no. I think it's the greatest individual season ever, like in Premier League history. Because in my opinion, I've said it that, like, of course, Haaland's, what was it when they won the treble? That's up there, in terms of a striker, because of course the goals was unbelievable. I've always said it though, for me, that they're the best individual season, in my opinion. It's probably obviously biased, but Luis Suarez, in 13-14, he really dragged Liverpool to, within an inch of a Premier League title. Of course, obviously, you had other players in there, the attack for Liverpool, obviously Sturridge, Coutinho, Sterling, Stevie G. There was obviously a lot to it, but again, the quality, Luis Suarez was performing at an elite level. But I think Mo this season, like, if you drag Mo Salah out this Liverpool team, we don't win the league, and that's easy to see, really. And Mo this year, like even the Ballon d'Or shouts, because I was having this conversation yesterday, really, and look at the Ballon d'Or. Once again, now Madrid are out of the Champions League. The Ballon d'Or race is wide open now, and it's even more out there than I think the worry was last year, because everybody's like, oh, you could easily see Bellingham winning it, or you could see Vinny winning it, or Rodri, for example, as well. For me, he's still number one. Mo Salah is still number one for Ballon d'Or. If he goes on and wins it, well, to look like he's going to win a Premier League title, and he's going to break every record there is, and the gap there is as well to the rest. And I'm talking, everyone in Europe. Everybody. I think I don't know what player it is, but the player that's closest to him is like 15 goal involvements away from him, or something like that. Like I seen a couple of days ago, and that's crazy. That's unbelievable. And yes, if Liverpool had beat PSG and got further in the Champions League, I think that does solidify his, like, more of his chances to win the Ballon d'Or. And of course, it would have done. But I look at it and I go, well, I think there's not been a better player this season in the world than him, and I don't think there has been. In my opinion. Look, of course, you've got top players. At PSG, for example, you look at Barcelona. You look at obviously with Barcelona, you got Rafinha, who has been unbelievable this season for them. If Barca were to win a Champions League, of course, that would then open that conversation up as well. But even still, I think there's been no better player than Mo Salah this season. I think he deserves it. But as Mark says, Ballon d'Or is fixed, though. Yeah, and absolutely it is. It's a popularity contest. Really, like, look, I love Messi. Messi for me is the GOAT in terms of football. But I've said it, like, even when Virgil van Dijk was close to winning the Ballon d'Or. He should have won it that year. I know, obviously, a lot of people say that 2019 was probably the best version of Messi we've ever seen. But again, Virgil van Dijk had the best season ever from a defender, was 1 point away from winning a Premier League title and won a Champions League in that year and still didn't win the Ballon d'Or. And that's something that you even look at it over the last couple of years. Modric winning it. You look at, Lewandowski should have won one. Of course, when they won the Champions League, and of course, Lewandowski broke records in Germany as well. He got robbed of one that year. And you look at Rodri last year. Everyone had the same type of thought that, oh, Vinny's going to go and win it. No, again, and people go, oh, a defensive midfielder winning it, and this, that, and the other. Rodri's by far the best midfielder in the world, by far. And again, Rodri fits in every single team's, as their DM. Absolutely, he does. And look, he deserved it last year. Absolutely, he did. And of course, people go, oh, well, normally Barcelona or other teams win it, and that's true. They do. But look, you look at the last couple of seasons, it's been unpredictable who will win it, of course. And Rodri winning it, again, it solidifies again. Look, somebody from the Premier League can go and win it as well. Anyway, but I think the English Premier League is overlooked, even though it's the strongest league. Yeah, absolutely, would agree with you, Mark, as well, 100%. Anyway, but look, for me, Mo Salah should win it this year, either way. Anyway, but look. Again, obviously the weekend, obviously coming up, you look at it, obviously it is a long weekend for everyone because, of course, obviously it is Easter as well in the UK. But of course, look, if Liverpool, if luck's on side, Liverpool could be Premier League champions this weekend. That's, but of course we've got to do our job first, and win. But even still, it would be a nice way to obviously end the Easter weekend, I should say, in Liverpool winning the league title. Of course, anyway, the 20th league title in our history. But of course, look, we'll have to wait and see for that anyway. But of course, there will be videos up tomorrow. Again, apologies there was no on the slot press conference shorts or anything like that. Today I've been a bit busy today, so again, apologies for that. Anyway, but yeah, of course, there'll be content throughout the channel tomorrow, of course, anyway. But yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed as well if you are watching on the repeat as well. Of course, the match preview for the Leicester game. And yeah, anything you guys have seen, of course, do let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comment section down below, of course, anyway. And anything, and let me know score predictions, start 11 predictions as well, all in the comments, of course. Let me know and I'll reply back to everyone down below anyway. But yeah, hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your weekends, of course, as well. And look, let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments as well anyway. But I've been Connor from the Cup Council. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Ta-ra.